This meeting is called to order. This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. And we have a new Open Public Meeting Act statement. In compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the State of New Jersey on December 4th, on February 13th, 2018, adequate notice of this meeting was provided as required by law. Please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by an invocation given by Councilwoman Kimberly Francois. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
As we gather here today as members of the Township Council, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to fellow citizens and to our community. In mind always the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make a better world.
Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Councilman Galtieri.
Here.
Mayor Kramer.
Here.
Councilman Onijaka.
Here.
Councilman Passad.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Here.
Councilman Vasanella.
Here.
Councilman Wright.
We are now on to item number 5 of the agenda. There are agendas up there in the corner. We have a proclamation given by Councilwoman Kimberly Francois for Black History Month. To read it from here, or are you going to go down? Okay. We have no mic.
Okay. I guess I'll read it here. No.
Get a mic
We'll
by the
have to
time.
get a mic.
Public session is on its way. Mr. Manager, perhaps you can.
There's no mic over there.
Manager took it away last night.
Ms. Francois, if you could
read it?
go ahead, yes.
Okay. This proclamation is for Black History Month, and it reads, whereas Black History Month honors and affirms the importance of Black history throughout our American experience, and whereas the history of people of African heritage goes back thousands of years and includes some of the greatest, most advanced, and innovative societies in the history of human existence. Whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to reflect on the rich history and teachings of African Americans whose contributions are vast and wide. And whereas the many local organizations and many individuals throughout our township are dedicated to the principle of fostering civic, economic, and educational programs throughout the Township of Franklin, and are dedicated to encouraging reflection on the rich history and teachings of African Americans, and bearing witness to the progress, beauty, and achievements African Americans have made throughout our community. Whereas it is fitting we set aside a special time to acknowledge this important segment of citizens of our community and their history. Now, therefore, we, our Mayor Philip Kramer, and I, Kimberly Francois, Councilwoman of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, New Jersey, on behalf of the Township of Franklin and the Township Council, do hereby proclaim the month of February to be Black History Month in the Township of Franklin. And we urge all citizens to join in celebrating the diversity of our community and highlight the importance of sharing our culture, customs, and traditions with those around us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank
I'd
you,
like to give
Councilman.
this to Percy and Steve Nagel out in the audience. They're representing Somerset Community Action Program.
Great.
Okay with you, Mayor, Mr. Mayor?
That's terrific. So as she does that, we're about to go into public discussion. I will let people know that there's going to be actually 4 chances to speak tonight. There's the public discussion, the regular public discussion after the announcement of the Community Development Block Grant, public discussion after the council discussion item about the Youth Center presentation, and then we have a second reading, which all second readings have public discussion. But first, we have the general public discussion when anyone can speak about anything pertaining to government. Do I have a motion to open public discussion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on it. All in favor of opening for public discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are open for public discussion. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the mic. State your name and address. You're limited to 5 minutes. No yielding of time, and you may only come up once. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Steve Nagel. I'm the Executive Director of the Somerset Community Action Program at 155 Pierce Street. If I may, through the chair, many people come to council meetings and complain about the way government works. I'm here to come today to thank your government for the work that you did to support the Somerset Community Action Program in the move that we had to make from the daycare center we were in to the center and our program center that we're now located at 155 Pierce Street. We were served with a notice to vacate given 6 business days to move on December 19th, and on January 2nd, reopened in a new facility. And we could not have done that without the support of the Township Council, the mayor, and the staff of this august community. I would like to just take a second and thank and commend several people on public notice. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois, who's been serving as a member of our board since 2009 and currently serves as president of the Board of Trustees. Town Manager Robert Volnacher, who went over and above in helping us get through as much red tape as we could, not just at the local level, but the state level, to make sure that we could provide quality services to families living in poverty throughout Franklin Township. Jennifer Gamba, his office coordinator, who worked just as hard as he did. Vince Lupo, Charles Maria, and Michael Rossi. And my apologies, Mr. Mayor, if I leave anyone out. On behalf of the more than 60 children and 115 parents who live in Franklin Township that we serve every day, please accept our thanks for enabling us to make this miracle move without an interruption of one day of our parents' workflow. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Just a word about that. In general, council will get a call from somebody, and when we think it's important, we call the manager, and he's the one who makes the magic happen. So generally in these things, our thanks to Ms. Francois, I'm sure was involved, but I'm sure the manager did a lot to make it happen. Anyone else wishing to speak? And I would also, come on up, I would also like to notice to everyone that Councilwoman Raj Sherman is in the audience. Hello, Ms. Sherman.
Hi, my name is Cy Phillips, Rupert Drive, Somerset. Today is a little over 2 weeks ago from when Gunawan Liam, a father from Franklin Park, was reported as being picked up by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, on the morning of January 25th, after dropping off his kids at the school bus stop. Mr. Liam is an Indonesian Christian who fled from religious persecution to arrive here in the U.S. many years ago, along with others in a similar situation. Mr. Liam is currently being held in detention at Essex County Jail. Tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and I distinctly remember from my childhood memory of getting a small box of sweethearts, those heart-shaped candies, from my father as a little girl. And I can't help but thinking of the Liam family and the fact that Mr. Liam cannot give his daughter a small box of sweethearts, or even a big hug or a kiss on Valentine's Day this year, or maybe for even some time to come. I do not know the Liam family personally, but I feel compelled to speak up, to show them my support, to let them know that their community cares about them, and to speak out against what's happening all around our country, where families are being torn apart and hateful rhetoric coming from Washington and elsewhere. I'm asking you, as my elected officials and leaders in Franklin Township, to show your support for the Liam family too. to show your support for our diverse community in a way that is inclusive, fair, and welcoming to all, whether a person is black or white or purple, whether a person is a citizen or non-citizen. I'm asking you to be aware of the many narratives and issues about immigration. I want you to know that the terms alien, illegals, illegal alien, criminal aliens are all hurtful and derogatory terms. Similarly, it's not about chain migration, but it's family reunification in the broader context of immigration reform. I want you to know that immigration falls under civil laws in our country and not criminal law, and that this distinction is vitally important because I know it impacts how ICE is perceived, how ICE operates, and how detainees are actually treated. I want you to know that immigrants can and do languish in detention for weeks, months, and even years, often without legal representation. I want you to know that the immigration is more than just DACA, although I appreciate and fully support the resolution that this council passed last year, DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Immigration is also about TPS, all these acronyms, Temporary Protected Status, for countries like El Salvador, Haiti, Honduras, Nepal, Nicaragua, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. These are all countries who are facing ongoing armed conflict, civil war, or environmental disaster. Clearly, I identify as an immigrant, and I want to ask your support for immigrants in Franklin and elsewhere. I have never spoken up at a council meeting. I'm not particularly fond of public speaking. I think I have a fear of it. But, you know, that's not really fear. What fear is a little girl not knowing whether or not she'll ever see her dad, or a father not knowing whether or not he'll ever be able to see his wife and kids ever again. Again, I'm just looking for support from this council to see how we can support the Liam family, and that your support will mean a lot to me and others that have been working on immigration for a while. I'm willing and able to do what I can, but need your ideas. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Council. My name is Brian Lee. I live in Kingsbury Acres, and I'm also here to speak about Ganawan Liam. I would like to thank members of the council that has come out to vigils for the Indonesian refugees that have been, taken by ICE. I know that some of you attended the vigils and spoke out there. I believe Chanel Robinson did. Thank you very much for that. I was not able to attend any of those because I had the flu at the time. Like Sai said, this has been an incredibly difficult time for the immigrant community. And what Sai didn't, we had a meeting about this a few days ago, and one of the things that we were brainstorming on just how to help the Liam family was to come here to this council and ask the council to pass some kind of resolution in support of Ganawan Liam and all the other Indonesian Christian refugees that have been taken to demand their release, because as some of you may know, a judge has ordered a stay on their deportation. And let me be very realistic here. A resolution that you pass is extremely unlikely to move the minds and hearts of ICE. They do not care. But what it would do is to show, it would just be a great show of support to the family in this extremely difficult time when they think that the most powerful people in the world are trying to break up their family and to send their husband, their father to his doom. And so it would show them that there are people in power that are watching out for them. And it would show anybody else in the community that's in a similar situation that there is support and hope out there. And I can speak from what I've observed that, that a lot of immigrants that are under the threat of deportation really appreciate any official support they can get from officials. It makes them feel like they're seen and heard, and that they are not just something that can get bargained away, or someone that can get taken away in the middle of the night and no one cares. So, and in addition to that, perhaps the council would consider also supporting a resolution to support the passage of the Indonesian Family Refugee Protection Act. It's an act that has been going on in Congress for a very long time, and what the act does is, for the Indonesian Chinese Christian refugees here, the reason why they're undocumented and subject to deportation is because when they first came here, a law was passed that required asylum seekers to file an asylum application within the first year of their landing in the U.S. instead of the first 2 years. And a lot of them, they were poor, they didn't speak the language, they didn't know that. So they wound up missing their deadline. And now it's completely, they have no legal way to do it. And this law would just change that. It would just let them apply. That's all it would do. And the law has really languished. And once again, I'm under no illusion that the law would pass, but it would just be a strong show of support. And I would also like to bring up the fact that ICE came right into our town, and and took a dad while he was sending his kids to school. And I have asked this council the question before what our police would do if ICE came to them for help in operations like this, and we know they have done that in elsewhere. And so that's the question that we should answer before it's too late. And I would also like to support the Franklin Township operation against the gas compressor station. That we have a whole bunch of speakers lined up for that.
Thank you. Step right up.
You can take this. Yeah, you guys can come in, yeah.
You're on.
You're on.
Yeah, okay, good evening. My name is Eze Iheme. I'm the chairman of the Queer Aborigines Union community in the New York, New Jersey area.
Address, please.
Members of the...
Your address.
My address is 24 South Kingman Road in South Orange, New Jersey. Members of the City of Franklin Township, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of the City Council of the Franklin Township, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is a day of celebration, a day of love and unity. On behalf of our paramount leader in Nigeria, the AIC, our President General, our national president, the people of Nkwere worldwide, we are hereby accepting the selection as a sister city of Franklin Township, New Jersey. My town, Nkwere, is a small town in Imo State of Nigeria, on the north of, a little bit south of the Niger, or east of the Niger, actually. It's about 9 square miles in area, and the population is about 250,000, scattered all over the world. Most of our people are traders, merchants, businessmen, and a few professionals. And we live any part of the world that you go to, we live there. Our townspeople join me today to express our excitement regarding this association and look forward to cultural exchanges between the two sister cities. We are happy and we cherish our new family. Like we say in my language, one need the number. That means you finally found a sister that lives in a different country, and we are happy. We love and respect that our old idiom from our forefathers. We want to honor the Honorable Council and also our son, Mr. Charles Onyejaka, who made this possible for us. We are happy to be here, and we look forward to good and better things in the future. And I'm joined here by members of our association in the New York, New Jersey area who are also happy, and I came here to speak on their behalf. Thank you so much, and we welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Benjamin Guy, 35 Pat Drive. Just got one or two questions I got to ask for the year. To start off with, one is I asked Mr. Vorwalker before about the economic development stuff. Pretty much my question is, when is the next step? We had a assessment done with the outside counsel or the contractor that we hired at all. I just want to know what the next step is for actually moving forward with anything with economic development. That's one thing. The second thing is that because of what's going on in the administration for the federal level, and I think I mentioned this last year, that community block grants will be cut sometime going into the next year, 2 years, whatever like that, and starting getting downcline. So that's going to start affecting services that are going to be offered in the areas. What's the township council's plan to actually help subsidize that? And the reason why I'm asking that specifically now is because with the school board potentially extending the summertime for the kids during the time frame, is the town going to be stepping up to actually subsidize more programs for that sort of gap? And the reason why I'm asking that is because the school is already strapped. The school board stuff is already strapped. And with Parks and Rec and everything else that's there, are we going to be actually trying to step up and actually help out the department, help out that actually avenue to actually help out with the kids during the time frame? And we're talking about maybe a 3-week period that we're actually looking at, but what are we doing actually to help out and bridge the town? Because if you have kids just running around the town and not having them nothing to do because we don't have a center, which we're working on now, is that what are you going to have these kids doing during that time frame? Are you going to have them working? Are you going to have them doing anything else? Is there anything else out there that we're going to have in the parks or anything else that are going to be out there? So before we get to that point and we get to a summertime of inconsistency or problems that we have, are we getting ahead of that? So that is one of the questions I have altogether. And then also to Mr. Von Lucker, I know Mr. Healy's busy, but I was just trying to find out when potentially they have a line for updating the master plan and when there's that open discussion actually going to be had in the public.
So, done? You done? Okay. So I'll answer your questions real quickly, but it's your time.
No, you can wait until the end. So that's it.
And I won't answer your questions.
So the other thing is with redistricting, just because it's coming up and census stuff is about to come up soon, whether or not we're getting ahead of that also. It's just a matter of whether or not we're having conversations about that behind the scenes or anything else that's going on, because it's going to affect the town and how they're going. Based on the township economic study that's actually posted now, it still lists us at 55,000. Based on the data points that we heard Fourth Ward Planning to actually done, it says that we're at 65,000 currently now, and we're going to be at projected probably about 68 to 70,000 in the next year or two. So that sort of puts us in a different classification as far as federal block grants and everything else. So I'm just asking that question.
It actually has no impact on federal block grants whatsoever. Once you're over 50,000, you qualify to administer your own block grants, and that's it. So the population change doesn't affect our ability to get block grants. It's just not true.
All right. We'll table that to another discussion at another time frame. But that's my main questions at this time frame. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Bernadette Marr, 4 Norris Road here in Somerset. I'm a member of the Franklin Township Task Force organized against Compressor Station 206, and I just wanted to give you a brief update and to encourage residents to get involved. The issuance of the DEIS, which is the Draft Environmental Impact Statement, is due to come out within probably 3 weeks. So there's only a 45-day comment period after that report comes out. We were wondering if the township has had a chance to review any of the legal documents from Transco, which were issued on January 15th regarding its construction plans, wetlands, delineation, the water usage waste, and the revised maps for the compressor station location. And the other thought that we had that was, that were of a concern was, did the township foresee any contamination potential from the Transco projected emissions of, and bear with me here, 739, 500 pounds of ammonia, 16,500 pounds of formaldehyde, 350 pounds of benzene, and 3,550 pounds of toluene over a 25-year period prior to the Trap Rock Quarry Reservoir, if that should move forward. Another thing we'd like to ask if it would be possible for the township to put a link on their website when the upcoming DIS is released, so that people will know to comment and when the hearings would be coming up. And we're open. Is there any thoughts that the township has that they can help us to publicize the DEIS schedule and the threats that the compressor station will have? Recently, we sent out some flyers to all the schools, the middle school and the high school, via the virtual backpack. So we're hoping that residents are becoming aware through their children. And we also sent out regular flyers to the elementary schools. So thanks very much for your time and for your involvement, and we look forward to continuing to work together with you. Thank you.
Hi, Barbara Cuthbert, 260 Bunker Hill Road. I'm also a member of the Franklin Township Task Force about the compressor station. And Bernadette said a lot of what I was going to say, but I wanted to start because tomorrow is Valentine's Day. And if this compressor station is built in Franklin Township, it will pose health and safety risks to the residents of Franklin Township. The chemicals that she mentioned, some of them are cancer-causing. Others are very toxic. The poundage that she mentioned gets emitted every single year. So over the 25 years before maybe we get the reservoir by Trap Rock, that will be emitted in our air, and depending on how fast the wind blows or what direction it blows, we're all in danger. I live, as the crow flies, about 2 miles away. I know it will impact my air. Now, the task force is really interested right now, because the draft environmental impact statement is coming out in 3, maybe 4 weeks, in getting people more engaged, more aware, looking at all the documents. When that DEIS comes out, it will be thousands of pages. So we're looking for residents, people that work in the township, anybody who can understand wetlands applications, construction maps, all that documentation that Transco, that's the company that wants to build this, produced is in the engineering department in this building. In the middle of January, they issued another update, so there's more documents there that we're really looking for people who understand how to look at that, to look at it, to identify where there might be little gaps. Since we live in the town and people who work in the township, they'd probably be more aware of, is there something wrong? Now, granted, it's a very reputable company that produced these. We all make mistakes. We all forget things. Transco, in their applications to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, has already issued maps that were inaccurate. So really, given that it's a short period of time, once it comes out, we'll have 45 days to look at it, gather our comments, send in our comments, find out what's missing, and present that to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission as well as the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. It's a short period of time. 45 days will not be long. Is that my time? Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hi, Linda Powell, 22 Buffer Drive. Barbara and Bernadette said a lot of what I wanted to say, but I would like to reiterate, I also work with the task force opposed to the proposed compressor station, and I still fear that a lot of people in town don't even know about it, and I would hate for this to be built, people's property values to go down, they're not even be able to give their houses away, and then say, why didn't anyone tell us? So besides the fact that we do need help of people with experience in a large number of areas, and we have printouts on our website, which is www.scrap-nese.org. We still need people to sign up as interveners. We've had, I think, I don't have the exact numbers, but something like 2,500 interveners, but only about under 400 comments. So we need people to comment, and especially when the draft environmental impact statement comes out, we need people who can help read the statement and then can help write comments that we can copy and paste and send to the DEP, which the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection, now under our new governor, is a lot more environmentally friendly. We're hoping that the township can help in this by doing email blasts about when the DEIS comes out and about when the hearings that FERC has to hold, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has to hold. We're going to need people to come out for those hearings. So we would ask that the township do email blasts plus announce any special meetings that we may want to help people sign up or know how to navigate the FERC website. And we do have a list of people. It could be geology, wetlands, any type of engineering, land use, cultural resources, air quality and noise, and the cumulative impacts of the pollution. We also hope that if anything comes through to the township, gets mailed from Transco Williams, that we're notified on a timely basis so we can get people to read what's coming through. And the only other thing I want to say right now is I support what Cy and Brian said about what's happening to our residents and how they're being unfairly attacked by ICE and the administration that's in Washington, D.C., and that I think we all have to stand up together before they come to get us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowe. I will be addressing the immigration issue in council comments.
Hello, I'm Carol Keene. I am a resident at 4291 Route 27, Princeton. And I'm also a member of the steering committee on the Franklin Township Task Force. I just wanted to make a quick addition to what Barbara said, that we're asking for the council's support in publicizing the DEIS schedule and the risks to the community from the proposed compressor station 206 in our township. We'd like you to post on the township website and in any other manner that's possible. There's another local pipeline project, the Penn East project, in which towns dedicated space on their websites to keeping the public informed. Examples can be found on the websites of the townships in New Jersey of Alexandria, Delaware, Holland, Hopewell, Kingwood, and West Amwell. In summary, what we need now is increased awareness. We need volunteers to review the draft environmental impact statement. We need people to sign up as interveners and to write comments to FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and to let people know NJDEP should know of our concerns as well. As our representatives, we are calling for your support in helping people stay informed and by making sure that the applications to NJDEP are reviewed by people familiar with maps, plans, and documents that are in these applications. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward, motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on closing the public portion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The general public discussion is closed. It is now time for council comments. I will start with Councilman Will.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My committees have only had one meeting or one board meeting over the past 2 weeks or 3 weeks since we met. And not to be typecasted, but it was my sewage authority meeting. We did our annual reorg, and we'll be moving forward on a couple projects. one thing that I think I want to mention with the manager, and I'm sorry to bring this up, is without talking to you, is we had talked about working on identifying areas without sewer service between the health department and the sewage authority. So if you are in an area that does not have sewer service right now and have septic tanks, we are looking to expand the service to try to alleviate some of the costs with the replacement. We can't guarantee it because of the availability, but we're trying to work on that. So unfortunately, that is I'm being typecast here, but this is my only report for now. I do have other committee meetings coming up in the next couple of weeks, so hopefully I have more to report on in the upcoming weeks. But other than that, Mr. Mayor, I'm done right now.
Thank you. Councilman Charles Only-Giaca.
Okay, Mayor. First of all, let me use this privilege to introduce the Nkwere team that are here today for this big ceremony. First of all, the young man that spoke is our chairman, a title holder in Nkwere, and an engineer by profession, Nze Eziheme. Thank you very much for your own contribution for what you've been doing for Nkwere and Nigeria in general. Secondly, I have engineer Obioma Achara here. Obioma, thank you. And I have Maggie Emenike. Thank you, your presence. My wife, Chinyere Onyejiaka, and our young lady, Candy Heme, the youngest of them all. Thank you for coming. And at the same time, our chairman, the chairman of the West African Community, and also UN Ambassador to Africa, Fode Mansoura. Your presence is noticed. Thank you very much. And I want to let you know that our mayor is also a chief, coronated by Oni of Ife, the highest chief in Yoruba land. So you can address him as a mayor or as a chief in Nigeria. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you.
I cannot overemphasize the importance of this relationship because it's very, very vast. This will pave a way for mutual collaboration between the two cities. It will help us in culture, both sides, health, education, and science. We are very, very happy to have a sister across the Atlantic Ocean. And without no doubt, Nkwere is, as he said, Nkwere people are very, very intelligent. They have a lot to offer. And at the same time, Franklin Township will embrace them. Mayor, I don't want to stay too much time on this, because if you allow me, I will speak to you tomorrow. I'm very, very overwhelmed and happy. Oh, my young man is here, John Oker. Thank you. Recognized. Thank you, Mayor.
You are welcome. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
I know everybody's here to see the unveiling of the new youth center, so I'm going to keep my comments brief. Welcome the new sister cities from Nigeria. You're our second sister cities. We just came up with another one from Sri Lanka under the spearheading of our Councilman Rajiv Prasad. Also, I want to continue to thank our Franklin Township Compressor Station Task Force. You continue to raise awareness, and I do think that the township can do more. We can do more on the website. We probably could put an article on our Franklin Times, and we really need to start raising that awareness. That's definitely something more people need to know about. Thank you for your due diligence. You can continue to be persistent about that. And I just also wanted to say, I'll keep my comments brief about the youth center when we have that hearing. But we're having I'm saying it's the finale. I'm saying it's the finale. This is our 6th annual Black History Month celebration. It's going to be on Saturday, February 24th. It's being sponsored by the Franklin Youth Initiative. It's free. It's open to the public. It's over at the Senior Center, 6 o'clock. Be there or be square. If you've never come out to see the young people perform, you're missing out on a lot of showcasing of young talent. So you're all invited to come out. I'll say it again. It's the 6th finale, I'm saying finale, Black History Month celebration, sponsored by the Franklin Youth Initiative on Saturday, February 24th at 6 p.m. at the Senior Community Center. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Francois. Councilman James Vassanello.
Thank you. Piggyback, Councilwoman Francois was saying about the town helping. I know you mentioned something about putting things out to the schools. They learn about it, they take the information home. You may already have, but if you haven't, we have charter schools, parochial schools, private schools, and to throw a bigger net. I know you're shaking your head. I don't know if sometimes we have a great public school system gets the word out, but you're looking for numbers, so you may want to go back to them. And I'm sure they'd be receptive. Well, I hope they would be. I know we got the important presentation, so just a few quick things. We have a Hamilton board meeting. Councilwoman Francois and myself were there this past week. Everything's pretty much moving along. Status quo, so to speak. They did reorganize. Tim Kelly was voted again in as president or chair. I'm not sure what they're calling, but chair to run the group. And the vice chair, I think there was a deadlock, so they're going to go back next month and try to, or a couple months when they meet again, and get vice chair picked out. But things are moving along, and got some events planned that we'll get into over time as they happen this summer and the fall. But lots of things going on, including obviously the construction, bricks and mortar construction, that if you haven't seen, go down there and take a look at. It's happening, and it's happening quick. Real quick mention, Township, I shouldn't say the Township received, but the Township, there's a grant that, I'm not sure if it came federal or state money, but that came through the county to work on the intersection and joining sidewalk at DeMont Lane and Easton Avenue. I believe it's upwards of about 1.9 million, although the manager mentioned yesterday, I think it actually was higher. But
about 2.8.
2.8, so that's even better. But it's been in newspapers, you may have seen it. But we're slowly but surely going through the Easton Avenue corridor for the entire stretch from New Brunswick train station to Bound Brook. Obviously, we're most concerned with the part in Franklin. And it is slowly, I emphasize, but it is happening and been happening, where we're redoing intersections, lighting, the dividers that's inevitably get hit, how to make them safer, sidewalks, lighting, everything. So that will be happening. Might inconvenience you for a bit this spring, this summer, but well worth it. And there's some more meetings coming up, Public Works, Emergency Management, Economic Development. I know next week we have that. This week we've been mainly working on budget, but we'll report back at the next meeting on those other committees. Thank you, Chief.
He has
Sorry, I
this-
had to once.
He has the neck dress on, and I was given one of those. If I'd known, I would have worn it. Thank you, Councilman. Let's go down to Councilman Chase.
Councilman Prasad just asked me to report on the Land Use Committee meeting, which I wasn't prepared to do. Usually Councilman Wright reports on that, but we did review the latest and much more detailed plans for the development of Catalpa Park, and the principal change, there's a change in the alignment of the driveway going in, so it won't cross where the present culvert is. It'll go off at an angle directly to the parking area. This is probably of interest only to the Pachalics, but that was the big change. And one point is practically all of the pavement involved will be permeable pavement, and this means we won't have to have a detention basin. The only things, there will be some sidewalks around the parking lot, I think, will be impermeable, and the tennis court will be a more regular blacktop tennis court. And I don't have much else to report. Public Works hasn't met. I attended the Mayor's Summit on Climate Change, but I know that the mayor is going to report on that, which was his idea. It was a great success. It was a full house. In fact, they sold out 2 weeks ahead.
Feel free
And-
to comment on details. Go ahead,
No.
if you'd like. Go ahead, comment on details if you'd like. Go ahead.
What?
If you would like to comment on details, you are our
No,
environmental
I'll
expert.
leave it to you because I haven't prepared them. So, trying to think if there's anything else I should report on. Oh, we had the annual sort of open to the public, well, all the meetings are open to the public, but this for the public meeting of the Kingston Village Advisory Committee, and probably reporting on things that both Franklin and South Brunswick have done to improve Kingston, particularly to improve the traffic situation there. We are making steady progress towards changing the traffic light there so that it'll have a period of being green only for Heathcote and then a period of being green only for Laurel Avenue, so that traffic coming out of those streets can make a left turn without having to fight oncoming traffic, which has tended to cause a great backup there. And our traffic sergeant, Eric Hagman, really has taken the lead on this and has gotten a great deal of cooperation from the state's Department of Transportation, which we'd had trouble getting before that. And then on the 30th, there was a meeting of all of the township's historical societies, really to get them together and hope that in future, you know, when any one of them has an issue or a program they're pushing, they can get the support of all of the others and have a more unified historic preservation agenda in the township. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Chase. Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Committee reports, land use, Dr. Chase already spoke about that. And there's been no admin meeting or the community foundation meeting. The Human Relations Commission had a meeting, and the invited guest was Councilman Ononjaka's son, who is heading up our Nelson Hall efforts for youth counseling here in town. And they were looking for space where they could provide the counseling as well as additional resources of volunteers who would be willing to help. So there was a lot of support for that. And so there's a lot of interest on the part of the Human Relations Commission on the Youth Community Center, and a lot of them are here for that, and they definitely want to participate in it and help. So that's there. I also attended the Kingston Village Advisory Committee meeting. Good to get back to it. I used to go there when Councilwoman Shirley Everly used to be there. And then, of course, Dr. Chase took over and, left it in his able hands. But it was good to be there and renew ties with them. I was also invited to the 70th Sri Lankan Independence Day parade. Not parade, but celebrations in Staten Island as well as in New York City. And so that was a rare privilege where you get to meet all the ambassadors from the various countries. It's a reception, and it was quite an honor to be there and representing Franklin. So our freeholder was also there at that time, Brian Levine, so we were able to represent Franklin. Everyone I spoke to from Sri Lanka was very keen to participate in the ad hoc committee for the Sister City program. So to give you a status update, Mr. Mayor, we had a discussion on the ad hoc committee structure that we were looking to set up, and basically each Sister City program is going to be unique and different and will require local township residents who have a vested interest in the Sister City program to basically run the ad hoc committee with a council liaison, and the admin committee would oversee it and guide them, but that would be how the Nigerian Sister City would work with local people who would drive it and see a vested interest in its success. Same thing with the Sri Lankan families that live in town. They're very keen to be part of it. And even our former mayor and assemblyman, Upendra Chavukula, is very keen because he grew up 20 miles on the other side of the ocean in Chennai. So he's very keen to get back there and participate. And so there's a lot of interest and support. And the next step really is to send an email to the respective government heads to start the process of establishing the Sister City agreement, whether it's a letter of intent or whatever, but that's the process. And of course, we'll be depending on our attorney to help craft a customized agreement for each one of the sister cities. But of course, there are many benefits, and as this thing grows, I think you will see that we'll put Franklin on the world map, and we'll have sister cities all over. But our local residents will be the ones driving it, and they would be the ones going for it. So if Councilman Vasanella wants to find some of his ancestors in Italy, we can do a sister city with them and establish that. So now to the comments that we had. As you know, Cy and Brian, that I am an immigrant. I chose to come to this country, and I value all the benefits and reasons for America being there. And what happened to Mr. Liam is un-American, because the Pilgrims came here for their religious freedom, and that was the very founding of this country. So it is just incomprehensible what is being done, and especially people who are coming here for refuge. So the council here has been in support. Our governor has been in support. He left a meeting to go to intervene in this whole case. So he caught a lot of criticism for it, but he felt strongly enough about it. So you have, and in his debates, he was chastised for calling New Jersey as a sanctuary state in his debate. And so, but he was bold on it and has taken a firm stand on it. And we fully support our governor on that stand. As far as Mr. Guy, thank you for making us aware of it, and we'll do whatever we can, whether it's discounted pool activities or whatever Parks and Recs would be doing. We'll look into ways of keeping our kids busy and out of trouble at that time. And please hold our feet to the fire on that. And as far as the compressor station is concerned, we need all the help. You're fighting a behemoth of a corporation, and they've got big money behind them, but we still have our voice, and let's make as much protest about it and see whatever we can do. So we're not going to give up the fight. We're here to help and support you in whatever way we can, and we've been there all along, and all you have to do is keep us informed as to how we can help you, and we'll be there. So with that, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
Well, actually, I'm not going to leave you quite yet. Do I take that as a motion to ask the attorney to write a letter to the two sister cities, a letter of intent?
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You have your instructions. And then you mentioned ad hoc committees for sister cities. Do you have nominations for the liaison, the council liaison for each sister city?
Well, it's obvious that,
You are allowed to nominate yourself. And I
Okay, so
I
I-
think
I-
it obvious.
I'll nominate Councilman Rajiv Prasad to be the liaison for Sri Lanka and Councilman Charles Oyenjaka to be the liaison for Nigeria.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor of those nominations, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And thus it shall be recorded. Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Chanel Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have my committee meetings coming up this week, so I have not much to report. But I do want to say to the task force, don't stop, don't give up. We're behind you 100%. I would like the information to be sent to me so that I can go online and make those comments. I had been asking for a month or so, but if you give me the instructions, I will go online and make those comments. So just get that information to me again, and I will move forward with that. In regards to Mr. Guy's comment, actually, I brought forth another parent reached out to me a couple of weeks ago. I did mention to the mayor and the township manager in regards to the extension of the school year. And what the parent presented to me was, while there is after-school program or summer program, they are maxed out. And then extension, some may not be able to afford to extend, continue the 3-week extension with that program. I don't know where we are or where the school board is in regards to that, but I will be willing to put my support behind whatever we can do. I don't know if in Parks and Recs, if I know everything costs money, but just hear me out. I'm putting it out on the table. I'm not saying that anything is guaranteed or promised, but I'm willing to go to bat for what we need to do for our youth in the interim. Again, no guarantees, no promises, but it has been heard. You have been heard, and we'll do all that we possibly can within our power. In regards to Cy and Brian, I too do not know the Liam family personally, but I was there at the march in Highland Park, in Metuchen. But I would say that some of us, and I said it that day of the march, some of us are here by choice and some of us are here by force. And if the truth be told, if we all look back in our history, none of us are really from here. So to say that these families are criminals is appalling. They were doing the right things. They had their paperwork in order. It expired. But if we provide programs, we should be able to sustain the programs and actually provide tools so that people can do what they need to do to make sure that their documents are in order. So I wholeheartedly support the Liam family and any other Indonesian Christians that are here on asylum. I will continue to stand. Again, I'm one of those. My family was brought here by force. I'm not taking it for granted that I am here, and generations later that I am making a difference in the community in which my ancestors were forced to be here. But I am here to stay, and I applaud those who are fighting and standing up and speaking out for those who need a voice, a venue, and an avenue in which to do so. I want to encourage everyone to be out for this 6th annual Black History Program. The Somerset County Democratic Black Caucus held theirs in the community center this past Saturday. Thank you for everyone on council who was able to attend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the feedback. I was delayed in my flight in New Orleans. I'm not going to say I'm complaining because the weather was 77 degrees, but thank you for your continued support. And I think that's all that I have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, and will you please forgive me for addressing you as councilwoman? You are, of course, the deputy mayor. Thank you. So Typically, I think of my council comments as brief. Unfortunately, tonight, they are not. There were several issues. First, I'll jump right into the immigration issue. I was at the march in Metuchen. Was afforded the opportunity to speak there, and that caught some attention, I believe due to the coverage in our local press about that, and I received 3 emails about it. 2 of them, actually all of them could now walk. 2 of them were complimentary, and one of them I will take some of the rhetoric out of it, but basically the question was asked of me what people like me don't understand about the word illegal. And so, you know what, that's a valid question, and I would like to address it. So there have been laws in this country I will try to hold it together. There have been laws in this country that have been reprehensible. And unfortunately, it starts with our Constitution, with the 3/5 clause. And it is incumbent on Americans to protest, to exercise our First Amendment rights, 2 of the clauses, to assemble and to air our grievances before our elected officials when they think those laws are incorrect. So not only are we there, or was I there, I guess I can only speak for myself, about Mr. Liam, but I was there protesting the law, or at least the way the law is being exercised. This, to my understanding, this is a man who came here legally, and due to the paperwork snafus or his lack of understanding of red tape that this country has, he missed the deadline. He is in danger of going back to a country where he will suffer for his religion. Others have spoke of their heritage. My heritage are people who came here to escape religious persecution, to escape pogroms. At that time, you could walk into this country. There were no laws. There were no immigration laws. Except at that time, there were laws against Chinese. But at the time my ancestors came, there were no laws. Just after they came, they started enacting laws. But basically, anyone could come, unless you were Chinese. And I think there were laws about, quote-unquote, deficient people, such as criminals, etc. I think the word they used were deficient. So that is what I protest. And as it turns out, at the same time that was happening, it came to my attention about another immigrant who was in our town, who was picked up by ICE, and he came to the attention of ICE because he was involved in shoplifting, and he had a criminal history in his prior country. I did not organize a march for him. I did not protest him. I did not call someone about him. We need to, now, what is happening in this country is we are involved and caught up in rhetoric and extremism. I don't think all of us, at least maybe I should speak for myself, I am not for open borders and anyone coming across. We cannot have that. We have to limit our borders in some way. I am hoping the people who have a different opinion aren't against things such as DACA, and the polls show that they are not, that they see that as a difference. We need to stop arguing in extremes and talk about the realities, and in particular the realities of this case of Mr. Liam. I think is a case that if you listen to the facts, your heart would have to go out for him. Thank you. Thank you. Two more pleasant issues. I did host, along with Mayor Bruce Harris, a summit on climate change. The idea came to me, I told this story before, the idea came to me after the United States pulled out of the Paris Accords, and I thought, you know, somebody should do something about it. And then I looked at my business card and saw the word mayor and decided who should. So fortunately, my friend Ed Potasnik is head of the New Jersey League of Conservation Voters. I sometimes get that wrong. And he knows, of course, the people in Sustainable Jersey. And while I had the idea, they made it happen. We had over 160 people there. The governor's wife was in attendance. She is passionate about the environment. And we learned about many things, many ways we could help the environment. And we learned about goals that we might have to become a Sustainable Jersey Gold Star member, which would be towards energy. Councilman Chase and I heard many ideas, and he has begun to start working on them. Those of you who watch the budget, we're talking about experimenting with some idling systems, so when our police cars in particular are sitting at an outside job and their car is idling, we're not burning gasoline. Electric cars we're buying, so we're beginning to move in that direction. It was a very fulfilling thing. I take it as one of the most important things I've done as mayor, and I hope that we will be having it again next year. Another important thing I went to was the New Jersey League of Mayors, where the governor spoke. That was just this past week. And the governor spoke of the the idea of that our property taxes, we all know about the SALT limitations with the new tax code for 2018, and he wanted to work on allowing for charitable donations to be, so instead of paying your taxes, you donate that equal amount to the town, and now you can make a charitable donation. One of the other people there pointed out that that may not work because when you make a charitable donation, such as if you go to a charity dinner and you donate $100, but the dinner is worth $50, you really can only donate half of it. So you can't take as charity something that you are getting something back for. And if you are getting back a credit for your taxes, it just may not be allowable. The governor mentioned some towns are going ahead and starting to enact things and pass ordinances. I am reluctant to do something like that. I think that's something the state needs to take charge of, and I will keep an eye on that. There was a lot of talk about COA, the Fair Share Housing initiative. Towns were, mayors there were upset about it, worried about it. About half the conference was spent on that. And I have the privilege of sitting there and saying, who cares? Because we have, as the township attorney pointed out last month, we have filled all of our COA responsibilities. We are a model city for that. They're sweating it, and we're like living in the glow, knowing we've done a good thing and have no legal cases against us, no judges making planning decisions for us. It was painful getting to where we were, but I was very proud that we did a good job. There was talk about, and the bargaining units won't be happy to hear about that, but there's talk on limits on sick leave payment. If people have saved up a lot of sick leave when they retire, there's talks about limiting that or even cutting that out. Senator Sweeney made the statement, we are not going to raise taxes. I was glad to hear that. I'm not sure what provoked him to say that in particular, but he also advocated for a county school system, and I got up later and said, I am not in favor of a county school system. The good people of Warren and the good people of Peapack, living in wonderful towns, I don't think have the same issues that we, with 1/3 of our children on free and reduced lunch, have. And so I think maybe consolidating us with Millstone and Rocky Hill and maybe even South Boundbrook might make sense, but a county-wide system I do not think would make sense for us. The last thing that was discussed there that I've made note of was interest arbitration, that basically the 2% cap when it comes to dealing with our bargaining units, our unions. Senator Sweeney has said he's going to be looking at that and see when it goes to arbitration whether they go crazy, whether they don't go crazy, and he'll be watching that. Others there said, no, we're going to do something about interest arbitration, we're going to set a limit, and someone else there, and I'm purposely not mentioning who, I'm not trying to show party divisions here, but someone else said he just felt the political will was not there to enact interest arbitration caps of 2%. So it was interesting to watch, and I thought I would relay it to you. I went to the Black Caucus celebration on Black History Month. It was just fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. Anyone who missed, next year we should televise it. Seriously, it was just fabulous. I went to a dinner given by the Somerset County YMCA organization. As many of you know, we are eager to have the YMCA come here, and I expressed that to the board members, every board member I could find there. They are interested. Their next step is a board meeting on it, and then doing a feasibility study. And what was mentioned to me is if we can start drumming up interest here and show them that we are interested, that we are eager for them to come, that would be useful. So I think in the future we need to try to think of ways of doing that. On a semi-personal note that I share with 22 other people, tomorrow I will be having a wedding extravaganza, a wedding bowl, a wedding potpourri, I'm not sure what to call it, but because people want to get married on Valentine's Day, I am going to do 11 weddings in an hour. So the part that I'm looking forward to is coming in and seeing a room full of brides, in that lobby right out there, full of brides and grooms. I'm getting help from the clerk's office. They'll be doing the paperwork, and I'll be shuttling back and forth between here and the large conference room. And I'm planning 5 minutes a wedding, and I will not be dressed as Elvis. So to the comments, Mr. Guy, so redistricting. So there will be some redistricting in the next year or two. That redistricting is almost inconsequential. It is basically, I suspect it's going to happen in the 2nd ward because there's been a lot of people moving in there. It will not move people between wards, so it won't change ward elections. It will add another polling place and another voting machine so that people, because there's so much increase in population there, people won't have to wait in line as much. That's the only real consequence to the redistricting here. If you have questions about it, local experts are Mr. Chase, and Mr. Glicklick happens to be here. He's on the Board of Election. He knows all about that. After the census, there will probably be a rewarding. I'm only guessing, I'm reading tea leaves, and that will change local elections a little bit because some people may be moved from one ward to another. But the redistricting, as far as Congress and perhaps state legislatures, that's above us. I mean, maybe maybe they listen to Councilman Vasanella a little bit more than me, but
Now, to be clear, Mayor, we have nothing to do
we have really
with the state or federal.
nothing to do with that.
Other than a citizen like Mr. Guy would be able to come forward, I think, when they do that and go to the meetings they have on a state, that deal with the state redistricting. And I think some of his issues, I mean, interrupt you, but that he brought up in prior meetings are relevant and important, but we literally have no jurisdiction.
Right.
We can and should probably publish when those meetings are 2-3 years down the road, but just to put that to rest, we
Right.
have no control. I don't know if we're even legally allowed to chime in on it if we wanted to as a legal.
I'm told there's a website, and again, someone who knows far more about this than us is Mr. Glicklick, who happens to be in the audience too. And thankfully,
Former councilman.
that's right. Oh, my
Dan
goodness.
Glicklick.
I announced Councilwoman Sherman is here, and I didn't announce Councilman Glicklick is here. But now I have. Thank you.
3 or 4 times.
And thankfully, that ends my council comments. Councilman, I just promoted you, or demoted you. Manager Bornlacher.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I now several things to report on based on some questions from Mr. Guy and some other comments by council. One, our Recreation Department is fully aware of the extended school year summer break for school and is currently working with the administration of the Board of Education. This is not really necessarily a matter of money, Deputy Mayor. This is a matter of staffing. Most of our staff will have returned to college. That's who staffs summer camps for young children. This is not about jobs for those children, Mr. Guy. They're small kids. So the kids that need the care are the young kids. And one of the biggest problems is the reason why the Board of Education is extending the summer break is because there are projects on all of the schools. The place where we hold our summer camps is those schools. So there's no place for us to have those summer programs extended because the reason why they're extending the summer is they're trying to get all of the construction done on those schools, and they need the extra weeks to get it done to start the school year. So I make no promises either, but I will tell you that there have been meetings between staff and the superintendent and his staff as well, and those meetings will continue, and we will do the best that we can. We've already extended the summer program for our programs by 2 weeks for part-time at the end of August, which ordinarily would end about the middle of August, and we're going to go to the end of August this year. But all of those things are being worked on. As far as the master plan, I know I sound like a broken record, Mr. Guy, but this is not the body that works on the master plan. The planning board is. And you need to attend planning board meetings and make inquiries. Now, while I had a lot of time this evening to make inquiries of my staff while the reports were being made, what I have found is that the intent of the planning board and our township planner is to have all of the elements of the master plan adopted by the end of this year, hopefully October, November. The last element that will be adopted will be the land use element. The first that are coming up in the next couple months are the historic and open space and ag elements. We just recently awarded a contract to a consultant for the transportation element. And you did that, I believe, in the first meeting of January. That is a major part of this update to the master plan is the circulation element, and that will be done with the assistance of an outside consultant. So hopefully that answers that question. The mayor's done a fine job on the redistricting, so I don't have to address that. And as far as the economic development, I'm not letting the cat out of the bag. We have another meeting scheduled for next Friday for the Economic Development Committee of Council, and at that time we'll discuss the proposal by our consultant to go out for bid on a branding initiative to give the town, and in particular our corporate business area a branding that will, they give it a name and and an identity so that we can begin to market it and begin to implement the marketing plan that was developed by that very same consultant. So that's where that's at. Certainly at the next council meeting, a member of the Economic Development Committee can report back on the progress that we've made as a result of that. Okay, housekeeping real quick. Friday, February 23rd, Franklin Township Municipal Blood Drive here in this room, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Anyone who wishes to give blood can do so here. You can visit our website and you can then make an appointment so you don't have to wait. Also, Mr. Nagel, thank you for very much for the kind words earlier. I do appreciate everything that you do as well, so I'll give you a little props here. The Somerset Community Action Program will be hosting the next in their series of finance seminars for anyone who is interested. And we're moving them out of this room, and we're going to move them to their new digs at 155 Pierce Street. The township is still working in cooperation with the Community Action Program. This one will be budgeting to create savings, February 21st at 155 Pierce Street. You will learn to use a monthly debt and spending tracker to find spending leaks in your budget. With that information, you will learn how to create a workable budget and begin saving. These tools will provide you with the ability to make wise money choices and either begin to save or reduce debt. Sounds like we should all go, Council. That's probably something that we could all benefit from as we create this budget that we're working on right now. That we had a meeting last night, and we'll have another budget hearing on the 20th of February, which is a week from today, right here in this room. For those of you who are interested in the finances of the town, I suggest that you come here and listen to all of us go on and on and on about how we're going to spend your tax money, and you can watch it on TV if you missed it last night. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. We are now on to the council. Wait a minute. Yes. Actually, before we do that, we are going to do the minutes. There are none. And then the warrants. Warrants in the amount of $12,933,066.81 on February 3rd, 2018. Do we have a motion to pay the warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are now on to the fiscal year 2018 Community Development Block Grants. Ms. Mitchell, if you would please come, and this will be followed by a public hearing.
Good evening. I'm here to announce the schedule for the Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal year 2018. We will have applications available as of tonight, and they will be posted on the Township webpage. All applications are due by March 15th, 2018, and then we will have a second public hearing at which time the applicants may make presentations to council. It is the intent to have a draft action plan ready by May 9th with a summary published in the paper by May 22nd. This is all contingent on us receiving some kind of authorization to go ahead, of course, from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. As you know, the budget still hasn't been settled for this program yet. Last year, the program received $254,477,000. If everything goes according to plan, we will have an action plan back to council on June 26, 2018, and it will be ready for submission in July. The actual program start date for Franklin Township for 2018 is September 1st, 2018. The block grant program allocates 20% of the grant funding received to public service activities, and the balance of the grant fund is either put into rehab housing or into brick and mortar programs that benefit the community. This past year, the grant program is used to fund renovations at Wyland Senior Housing and renovations for the Arc of Somerset, for the Food Bank, Great Expectations, and the Sisters Network. And our personal public service programs, we funded daycares, after-school programs, mentoring programs, housing counseling programs, homeless prevention programs. We do as much as we can with the small amount of funds that we receive. At this time, I guess we can go, if anyone has any comments concerning the program or any questions, I'm here available for your information.
Do you have a clue as to what the funding will be, or no?
I expect that we will probably receive somewhere near what we did last year. It looks like, from what I've been reading on the webpage, that the 2-year budget plan they approved didn't have any cuts in the domestic spending program. Although the president wishes to eliminate the program along with a lot of other programs in HUD, it still is up to Congress whether that happens or not. And community development has some pretty big supporters in Congress. So I don't think he'll get his wish.
Ronald Reagan fought for the line item veto, and he lost that battle, so the president doesn't have that power. Great. Well, her announcement being concluded, it's now appropriate to have a public hearing about the Community Development Block Grants. If any of the public have any questions, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, seeing no discussion on that. All in favor of opening public discussion specifically limited to the Community Development Block Grant, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We're now open for public discussion or limited to 2 minutes on the Community Development Block Grant. Anyone wishing to speak?
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on the block.
Seconded.
grants.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public discussion on Community Development Block Grant is closed. Now to the item that most of you, I believe, are here. It's on the Youth Center presentation. This presentation would not be happening were it not for the hard work of Councilwoman Kimberly Francois, supported by the rest of council. So, Councilwoman, would you do the honor of taking and running this portion of the
Sure, I think it's time for us to have our consultant come up from Kimmel, architecture firm. They did they ran all the programs that we had out there where we solicited input from the community. They did the mission statement, the vision statement. They came up with the design and the architecture of the building. And I'm very, very pleased with the results of the work that they've done for us. So with no further ado, take it away.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Is this good? Okay, very good. Well, thanks so much. I just want to, first of all, compliment you all. I do a lot of public meetings. I've never seen more civility and humanity in a public meeting than I've seen here tonight. So thank you for sharing with that, and I'd like to send a video to quite a few other townships. Anyway, so
Thank you.
Back on point. So it's been a delight for me and my team to work with so many folks in this room, so many folks at the front table on this important project for the Franklin Township youth. And so we're here tonight to show you the process that we went through, tell you about what has been decided ought to be in such a center, how the center might lay out, how it could impact that neighborhood, and what it might look like and what it might cost. So I'll go through that in more or less that order. So with that in mind, what we promised to do was to lead a very structured process to get to a design that was by its definition objective. Set a goal, come up with designs that meet the goal, and it wasn't about any one individual or individual personal taste. And so what you see on the slide before you now is the steps that went into that was first we worked with the community to develop a project mission statement that would give us what we call clarity of purpose. The second thing is we documented constraints and variables associated with the site, the existing buildings, community need, and so on. The third thing is we developed what is called a program. In architectural terms, that is a listing of all of the uses that would go into a facility, the spaces that would be required to do those things, and then square footage is associated with it, so it would then tell us how big a facility would need to be. Lastly, we developed then design concepts that were intentionally meeting the mission, resolving the constraints, and then meeting the programmatic need. And so we have those, and then obviously implementation is a future thing that hopefully will happen one day, not too far in the future. So, so the project mission statement that was put up there, I'm going to read this one. The rest of this I won't read, but just to get this out here. The Franklin Township Community Youth Center will evolve from the youth and overall community, serve the needs of the youth, and empower them to set and achieve their life goals while making Franklin Township a better place to live while in a welcoming and safe environment. It took quite a bit of energy. We had a huge amount of public participation in all these things, specifically in this. In addition to the project mission statement, there's a series of core values that we came to as well, and they're up on it. I'm just going to paraphrase the title of each. So it's intended to be safe, to be prideful for individuals and the community, to be cool and interesting and engaging to youth and focusing on them and not maybe some of us older folks that were involved, that it would be special and make people feel special, that it would be respectful and make people feel respected, that it would be inclusive of everyone, and there's such diversity in the community, that it's an opportunity for learning, and as important as anything, because we came to learn how long this has been discussed. It had to be achievable and realistic and not something that may sit for another decade or more, right? So the spaces that we have are summarized up here, but they're in largely in several different activities. So what I'm going to do is there's activity spaces that are geared just to create youth activities, from whether they be educational, but really programs that are delivered. There are a small amount of offices for the administration of the facility itself, but more importantly, private spaces for counseling that also then can be used for tutoring, and spaces that are important for that represent a small amount of the total square footage. There's public areas and building support areas. The idea that it is a community youth center so that you can gather there for many different reasons and not just when a program is scheduled. That the library actually has I don't want to call it an outpost, but it would have an in-post for the neighborhood that would be there with part of the facility that would have cooperating hours, but also be able to have its own hours from time to time that don't necessarily sync up, so it needs its own entrance and so on. And then, so we need some specific outdoor areas to improve that neighborhood, to create outdoor play area, outdoor garden areas, and make it a real nice place in the neighborhood to want to be, and not at all feel like sort of your old school institution center that you might see in an inner city. All right, so with that in mind, we were programmed at about 25,000 total square feet for that. And that's actually one of the rare times when we started. I think we started out a little over 30,000 square feet, and we found that we could actually, which is a fiscally responsible kind of thing to do, double use a lot of spaces for dual functions, so the project got smaller, which makes it, we think, more achievable. So I dare say most of you are familiar with the project site over in the, I guess, northeast corner of the township. Does this have a laser? It does. No, it doesn't. If you're familiar at all with the site, it no longer looks like this. The buildings that were existing at the site have been demolished, but we work with, and it's right in the community, intended to be walkable for quite a few of the potential youth that would benefit. So we did this sort of interesting word cloud and got opinions from the community of what they thought were important about how the center would be. And so you see the results of that here, that it would be modern, welcoming, inviting, colorful, spacious, attractive, fun, lots of glass. It was amazing how often that came up. And they didn't want it to feel like it was hardened and it would be open. Artsy, functional, accessible, a place to get help, and a safe. So they're really great things. And so as we look at the design, hopefully you'll see how those things come to life a little bit, each one of them. So here we have the plan that fits on that site. And I'm going to highlight some areas, and I have some zoom-in areas. But you can see it is intentionally has an interesting geometry so that it allows us to have outdoor spaces for various activities. And it has a the circular component in the middle is sort of the community space. It's aspirational, a little bit like when you walk into the library across the way, which is just a beautiful space. This is not nearly so big as that rotunda, but along that same idea, a nice volume and very welcoming and very dignified. It has a library component. It has a fitness component. It has game facilities and so on. And I'm going to hop into zoom-ins so we can see that better. So it was important because a number of the things that they're going to do are countywide services that will be delivered into the community here in addition to your local programs. And so we needed to have, sort of a complicated and secure entry to allow various programs to happen at various times of day. So you come in, and there's a secure waiting area and vestibule. There's access directly into the library component over here. There's game facilities and so on. And just to give you an idea of how these, because a lot of people are not used to looking at drawings, the type of spaces that these kind of things can turn into, interesting, exciting spaces for youth upon entry, really clear direction so that you walk in and you can figure out where you might want to go and be helped. The community open space, a nice space, whether you're hanging out, whether you're on your device, whether you're together with your friends, whether you're meeting informally with maybe a counselor where it doesn't need to be so private, can all happen. If you look at the library itself, we want that to be, again, very engaging and consistent with the library type of program, so really interesting like that to get help. And then we also have, there's some studio space and really flexible maker space for kids to go in and whether they're going to work on a music project or a public speaking project, to have those type of spaces. So these are all other projects that we've been involved in. All right, so if we go over to fitness game room, there's, I think, really a lot of opportunity for fitness wellness to penetrate, maybe even beyond youth in that neighborhood, but it's obviously specifically geared towards youth, but spaces that are fun for them. So that's what you have over here in the light purple. And game facilities, and again, those type of spaces, can become really more than what you might have thought of as a game room back in the day. And, a common space area, a nice, bright, glazed area with a lot of volume and daylight. Fitness that, is engaging and has good air conditioning and is, a space that's easy to keep clean and fresh and so on. And then, we really want to have a lot of flexibility for various types of activities, whether, not just fitness machines, but classes and wellness components. Right? So if we go back into the back right-hand side, you'll notice that there's some outdoor space up here that is accessible and is intended to be secure so that you can have activities out there and it doesn't become a place when it's off hours that it's difficult to manage. Sport space and traditional outdoor activities. We have classrooms that are intended to be flexible, that have the ability to be maker type space, that can have wet projects and so on. And wet really just means sinks and like that. You'd have a video component, snack bar to have some nutrition program that can happen in there, the rest facilities and so on. That you might think. And flexibility is, I think, the key hallmark for everything. And here you see the kind of thing that we'd imagine in a maker's durable tables that really could be used for projects of all sorts. All right, gymnasium, but it's really multi-purpose gyms. The idea is there's a lot of debate in the public about how that's used. And really the idea is you want to be able to have it for organized sports activities, relaxing, kids' place to be, but then you can run lots of other programs that aren't specifically necessarily athletics. So if you that can turn into a place to have movies and have a big get-together in that way. That could be pretty cool for a party and has interesting lighting opportunities. When it needs to be a gym in the more traditional sense, it can be a gym. Different ways that we see, and a little throwback, but whether dances and things like that are still possible. So we weren't involved in that one. At any rate, so a lot of flexibility was the key component for that. So what you do have in a little I'll try to explain is there's a second floor area over this part of the building, this part of the building, that part of the building. And the idea is that there's a nice stair right in the middle of the open space. And you walk up and there's a bridge and you can look down and see. Very easy. Part of what we have here is intentionally interesting, but it also makes the facility very visible from a lot of different points. So there's self-policing. There's ability with few staff to be able to have a good sense of what's going on with the building. So a lot of that is kind of wired in to our thinking here. So I'm going to go right to the zooms on that. So in the lower right above the fitness area, that's the main counseling center and where most of the one-on-one community county services would be delivered in there. And again, it's intentionally private and secure. So if someone's going in or out for maybe a less fun reason, but an important reason, it can be done in dignity and so on. Spaces like that. That you intended even that open work environment, a place that's nice to be in, that has good daylighting. This might have terminals to access services. Maybe if parents with a child, they can work on something and fill out paperwork and manage red tape that we were talking about earlier tonight. Again, the bridge concept is a little bit like this, where you're space but you're looking down sides. And again, a lot of what we want to have is very open. So this is in a counseling room in another place, but there's a sense of openness to it. That's safe children. You're sort of kind of building in the safety kind of factor in without making it look like you're trying to be secure is what we try to do. Across the bridge, we have additional multi-purpose program deliverable things. So more classroom space to deliver programs, special social media room. The idea of a quiet space that you could go to study or be away from hopefully the huge energy that's in the facility. Again, the idea of these things being open, that you can have a sense that something's going on there, but you have acoustical privacy, quiet space. More traditional classes and programs can be delivered. So last but not least, one of the interesting things that came out was this notion of having something aspirational for the youth. Like if you qualified and you put in your time and you were doing really great, you could have access to maybe an area that you've earned access to. So this notion of a third floor, we'll call it not the penthouse, but the penthouse, which is, it would be limited access to those that have qualified, and maybe that becomes something aspirational. Have that as well. Place that has electronics, has access. You could also have small meetings there. And so those are the components that make up the 25,000 square feet that I mentioned. It, amazingly enough, fits on that site. We've stacked it as cleverly as we think we can to be able to fit all that in. So what I'm going to share with you now, which is kind of interesting. So this is some before photography, and then we have a rendering right after the photo. Now, mind you, these buildings are gone, so you couldn't take that shot now. But if from the same angle as a before, you can see how that facility would fit on the street there. And again, the idea was that it would be fun, that it would be a dramatic addition. What you're looking at is the front right corner. I can't point at that screen. Well, that looks really dark. Look at it over on that one. Anyway, I don't know why that projector might be a little older. At any rate, so if I could point, but what you're looking at there on the right-hand side of that slide is the, and I apologize to the board who can't see that screen. It looks great. You're looking at the lower right-hand corner. You can see it's the fitness center that you'd see right in, and you can see that going on. The upper floor is the counseling center. The red projection sort of tower at the entry has the vertical circulation, the elevator, all that. Plus, it has that penthouse space that I mentioned. And I don't know if it would be worth wheeling that, Safi, to the right to help the board, because that's.
We will have plenty of opportunity to look.
You're okay with that? Okay, I didn't want you to.
I want them to see it.
Yeah, okay, that's great. At any rate, so now you're looking almost straight onto the facility from directly across the street. So what you see here is that's the main entry into the space. The library is here to the left. That vertical piece is center, and then. Some pain was taken. There's mostly smaller buildings around it. So houses and various scale things. And so 25,000 square feet starts to feel big. And so what we did is really broke down the geometry of the building into these component parts so that it doesn't feel so big, and specifically pushed the gym, which is the single biggest component, back off the street so it didn't so library back, and then that gives us the street face programs, and then on the rear side we have opportunities for structured security. And last but not least, just a better feel on street, with the opportunity to maybe carve some street parking and structure that to give us more green area. We talked about limiting certain street spots so that it was for the facility hours and so on. So my attempt to be quick, then I'm going to keep moving and just talk about the cost range. And so we're pretty confident. We've done a fair amount of work at Rutgers just across the way, and so we kind of have a good sense of cost in this neighborhood in this current climate. So we're looking. I didn't know I could do that with this. All right, so, okay, we're doing that again. So what we're looking at here is with 25,000 square feet, all in construction costs in the kind of market that we have, and it's more environment and it's public prevailing wage project. We think a very safe number at this point is to allow $400 a square foot for that, plus $2 million in other associated costs with the building, which includes furnishing it and putting technology in it and all the things that you have to do to have the thing get designed and the construction management of it. There's a hefty contingency in there, plus all your IV as the facility. So that's what we would want to allow. So that's about $13 million of total project costs. Worst case, we think it's slightly more than that. So we think it's a $13 to $14.5 million total project build for everything that you would need.
Define soft costs, please.
I'm sorry. So soft costs are everything in a building project that's not physically attached to the building. So that would be all of the design, engineering, permits, approvals. That would be all of the furniture, the technology, the programmatic stuff that has to fit in the building, phones, security, cameras, things like that that make the building really work like you see around the room here.
So this is turnkey?
Yes. Yes, so just to be clear, top number, really construction, soft costs, so total turnkey, 13 to 14 and a half roughly is what we think. That would be a safe thing. We did project that out already for more or less a year, to allow for inflation and so on in the construction market, knowing that we're not ready to go to bid today. From a schedule perspective, the earliest, if you just sort of say the whole project, from design to start of design till the start of construction is about 6 to 7 months. So just as for instance, started, March, you can shovel in the ground at the earliest in September, and obviously that's subject to all sorts of things as to whether you can hit that kind of schedule. We think it's probably a 1-year construction build. It's not that big a building. It's not that complicated. So you're talking about 18 months to 2 years from now, if you progress in sort of some sense of urgency, for lack of a better word. So that, I think, ends my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Your meeting.
I didn't know it was my meeting. You should have told me in advance.
I said you will run this portion of the meeting.
Okay. So I think it's time now to open up the meeting for public discussion so we can get some comments. You guys have waited here patiently for a long time tonight, and we'd like to hear from you. If you have any questions, any comments, observations, anything, from the public. So I entertain a motion to open the
Motion
meeting.
to open it up for public
From the public.
discussion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So Rosalind Sherman, 529 Rosecliff Court, Somerset, New Jersey. I was on the committee for this center until the very end, and I did not get to see this presentation before, but I have heard about it, and it lived up to everything that I heard. There's been such a positive buzz about this. It's a marvelous addition to the community. You've done a marvelous job. The use of the space is so imaginative. It's perfect. You've taken this little piece of land and turned it into something that's absolutely modern, beautiful, spacious. The children are going to love it, as well as the adults. Kudos to everybody who worked on it, and particularly to you, Councilwoman Francois. What has this been, 40 years?
50 years.
50 years.
50
We've been
years.
trying to do this in Franklin Township, and you made it happen. You go, girl.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Solomon, 219 Wilson Road. Also a proud member of the Recreation Advisory Council, and I'm also Supervisor of Health and Physical Education District, Franklin Township Public School District. So I say all that to say, I was also a little girl that took part in, I'll call it the original design, I don't know if it really was, of this building. So this is amazing for me to see. I really can't fathom that all that can fit in that space. I'm going to ride by tomorrow. Keith and I were discussing that. So I guess my first question, I really only have one question, will 25,000 square feet really fit in that area? Because when I'm looking from the street, I can picture that street. There are no sidewalks currently. I know there are two houses on either side of it, and I'm just wondering if that's an accurate depiction of what it will really look like. So that's my only question. However, wow, what an amazing job. Thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of, the creation, early discussions of this building. I'm wondering also, just a wondering, again, not a question, and I said this early on in our discussions, if a fitness center and a gymnasium is the best use of space in this building. The reason why I say that is I know we are continuing to build a great relationship between recreation and the school district. Again, being the supervisor of health and physical education, I'm aware that we have 2, maybe 3 brand new gyms in the district right now, and 2 brand spanking new fitness centers. So I'm just wondering, with our great relationship with sharing facilities, if a fitness center is something that's needed. If it is, great, I'll take it. But again, if there's something else that we can put in that space as a resident of 2 teenage kids, I'd love to utilize that space for its best purposes. Thank you so much.
So I think we probably both can answer a couple of those questions. So I think that one of the things that we tried to do, and we really tried to focus on what it was that the people that this will serve wanted to see in a facility that they would use on a regular basis. What were those things that we could provide for them that weren't being provided for them currently? And I think that's why, Martin, we talked about the multi-purpose uses of a gymnasium, and the ability to incorporate some kind of physical programs with our educational and recreational activities. And that's why I think that gymnasium, as we said in the presentation, doesn't need to stay a gymnasium. It can be used for many, many different purposes. And it's just, I almost hesitate to call it a gymnasium. We tend to, in this line of work, and when we build parks and recreation facilities like this, it's like, it's an open space. We don't build soccer fields anymore. We build rectangular green fields. Because we recognize that they can be used for so many different things. And I think that we just really wanted to have a place that was big and open that maybe one day it was a basketball game, and the next day it was a dance, and the next day it was a movie, and the next day it was a play, or whatever it might be. And I think that's what that affords us. And yes, it can all fit on that site. I know some people find this hard to believe because it was an odd-looking building, but it was not that much smaller than 25,000 square feet before of usable space. It was just divided up in a different way that was really not as efficient as what we've seen here tonight.
And just to give you a sense, we don't work in magic, and we do work to scale. The property's 40,000 square feet, which you wouldn't think, but it is. And so the total building is 25,000 square feet, but we've stacked some of that, so the building is considerably smaller than that. So it is a bit of an optical illusion that it doesn't fit, but I'm not surprised to hear that. Great.
Mr. Glicklick?
Hi. Dan Glicklick, 27 Jay's Corner. This is, what, a long way from the first day we walked in with masks.
Yeah.
And I remember opening up a cabinet, and this little critter went scurrying around, and I got out of that. Just want to say congratulations, and Councilwoman Francois and Bob Warnocker, thank you very much.
That's all you're going to say, Councilman
I know,
Glicklick?
I surprised you. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
more surprising.
Not a councilman anymore.
Okay, thank you. Hold up.
Good evening. Keith Stewart, 26 Atlantic Road. I'm chairman of the Advisory Rec Council. Once again, you did a great job, and I think it's amazing at the possibilities that building can have, and the number of kids in the community that need it and that could definitely benefit directly within walking distance. I was, the thing with the size, because driving by there and trying to imagine something that large, and one of the things I was looking at with the rendering and the dotted lines, I don't know if that was property line or so on and so forth, but I'm wondering, as far as the buffer between the building and the surrounding houses, what kind of buffer is provided for those residents? Thank you.
So yeah, I won't restate the part about it does fit. I'm going to try to hop back to, and the building that was there was pretty darn big. I think you might easily forget the scale that it was at, and it was just a big block sort of thing in the middle. All right, so yeah, so the property lines are indicated here, and this meets your zoning and so on. So that's what you have here. So you can see there's ample green space around. Obviously, right here, we're at this building setback that's right in your zoning code. So it's what you would expect. It's not for the whole distance of the property, and I think you'd see a lot of. I want to go back to the wrong way. Bear with me. So if you look, the gymnasium, this was the existing building, and it was right on that same setback line. Our gym sits much further back now, so it really doesn't abut anything but open space where the building part is. And then our building steps back here, and then, of course, we pull off the property line here where there used to be, just asphalt. So, excuse me? There's a house over here, yes. Yeah. Yep, correct. Yeah, so, if we go, here we have quite a bit, there's a little bit of the building that's, at the setback line, then the building pulls back off the property line, and then there's a lot of green in the back. So I think it'll fit in very comfortably with the neighborhood.
Anyone else from the public want to come up?
Hi, I'm Percy Sanders, 2 Evergreen Road. I'm a member. I'm on the SCAP board and president of the Week of the People and Rec Council and so on. I say thank you for doing such a wonderful job on the building. I think it's feasible, and I was wondering. I did see elevators on there.
Yes.
Well, thank you for dealing with the AVA, ADA, in conquering what I have been fighting for a while at some of these buildings to have access for the disabled. And that's pretty much all I have to say. The parking situation, how does that fit in? Is there parking in the back somewhere, or is that all in the front?
So the parking that you saw on the concept right now is what we're talking. We're exploring some other options as far as off-street parking in the general vicinity. That there's, I can't make you any promises, but we are exploring the idea of possibly acquiring an area parcel that's in the area to provide for off-street parking. However, we are going to provide the on-street parking. But and I stress this, and we've had this discussion a number of times about this particular facility. So it's primarily for the kids. Most of them will be coming there either by foot or by bike or being dropped off. The parking that's really necessary is for the staff that will be in the building. Certainly that there will be opportunities to have events there that will require additional parking, and we're working through that. We wanted to try to maximize the space, and we wanted to try to maximize the things that we offered to the kids in this facility, which meant that we have, we have a limited envelope to work in, and we tried to do the best that we could, but we're going to continue to explore the opportunities of parking in the neighborhood that we may be able to create. So, yes, it certainly is one of those things, Percy, that we recognize.
Okay, thank you.
Why not?
Name and address, Mr. Tibbs.
My name is Johnny Tibbs. Sir, I'm the
Address, please.
25 Parkside. I don't know whether to cry or to holler, or to laugh, or what to do. I am the. I want to use a funny big word. I'm the curator of that whole property there, and I consider that property sacred, really sacred. And I finished that building that was on there. It took me 8 months with me and two young men, Ronnie Wade and Donald Wade. They were enrollees. And we finished the building so that we can get an occupancy permit for a daycare center. That was the first thing that went into that building. And if you notice in the back of the, boy, it's all knocked down now. In the back of the building, there was some sidewalks, some curves. I was teaching myself how to build. Ted was teaching me how to build it. In the back there where the air conditioner was, I put the concrete in, and it was like this here. Because I didn't know how to really do it. But there was a tree outside that building. I planted a tree outside that building. It was there for 30 years. That pine tree was outside the building. And as I look at this here, now you guys know, that looks beautiful, man. It's been a long time. I've been begging for that building. For a daycare center to be there. You know how many years I've been begging for that building to be there. And now I think it's about to happen. And I am very, very proud of it. It looks good. And I think better times are coming because of it, too, I think. And I want to thank all you guys for it.
Thank you, Mr. Tibbs. Anybody else from the public want to come up and say anything? Yes, Steve?
Steve Nagel.
Address, please.
19 Back Drive, Edison, 155 Pierce Street, Suite F. As a latecomer to the planning committee for the new youth center, I have to commend the work of the council and especially the architectural firm, because you really haven't experienced what it's like to plan a youth center until you sit in the back of the room with 75 kids in front of you who tell you what they want. And you sit there with a couple of us in the back kind of scratching your head going, what? Because they're talking about things that, being a baby boomer, I have absolutely no concept of what they're talking about. But seeing it rendered in drawings and architectural renderings that show that we can take a child's vision and turn it into reality is something that every person on this council and every member and resident of this township can be proud of. So congratulations to the architectural firm. You guys did a great job, and the council for having the vision to allow the kids to plan their center out. And anything that the Somerset Community Action Program can do to help continue to aid this process, we are availing ourselves to at a moment's notice. And thank you for the opportunity.
Anyone else from the public want to speak?
Councilwoman, seeing no one else coming forward from the public, a motion to close the public portion.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We went through a process before we came to this architectural design, and I just wanted to let everybody know what that process was and how they transformed the collection of the input that we got from the students, the youth, and the community into this design. And everything I've heard here tonight, I know the first time when I saw this unveiling, I literally almost started to cry because I couldn't believe my eyes. I couldn't believe what I saw. I kept thinking, how could they have taken all that input we solicited over a period of a year and come up with something as fabulous and fantastic as this design in that space? So I wanted Safi to at least give us a brief overview, take us through the chronology of how we came to this, listened to the input and came to that design.
So my name is Safi Callan. I'm the special projects manager for the township. And one of the reasons I was told right off the bat of why they had chosen Kimmel Buckrat, it was because their process was truly collaborative. And you hear that a lot, but when I had started the job as special projects manager, I think we had the meeting with Kimmel Buckrat the very next day. And just kind of going step by step with them and seeing, one, the care they put into the project, and two, how they really brought the community in is something to really be proud of. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of some of the ways that they engage with the community in order to elicit information about the project that you saw before you today. So in July, they had done Independence Day surveys that were facilitated by the Youth Council at the fireworks event. They asked many of the community members, and especially teens, if they thought there was a need for a youth center, what they'd like to see in a youth center, and how they felt that the youth center would be a welcome change for them in their lives. So about mid-July, we did stakeholder surveys where we engaged the Board of Education, Chamber of Commerce, Somerset County, and their youth and community programs. Posters and flyers were hung in the Franklin Township Library, the Community Senior Center, township facilities. They were also given out to programs through the Recreation Department. There was information on the actual center and a place for township residents and people who had a vested interest to speak about the center, ask questions, and kind of collaborate through our township website. There was information put up on social media. There was visits by Kimmel Buckrat to our Human Relations Commission. And then ultimately in July, there was a neighborhood conversation with close to 100 people. Those people were able to give comments on what they thought the community needed, what they wanted to see within the community, and how they thought that this new project would be a welcome change. It also was an opportunity for people to talk about different partnerships that they thought could develop out of this entire project. So in August, our youth center website was up and running. It was our official portal to get up-to-date information regarding the youth center. It was a format in which people could leave leave questions, feedback, things like that. Toward the end of August, the Week of the People event is the back-to-school event that happens over at Williams Park, and not only were we able to advertise for the upcoming events that were centered around the youth center, we were also able to talk to more teens to find out what it was that they thought they needed within this township. In September, we talked to groups like the Franklin Township Youth Council, the Municipal Alliance for the Prevention of Substance Abuse, Connections, Boys Councils, STFL, and we did advertising through our Teen Talk. We also surveyed some of those groups to find out, again, what they thought they needed within the township. Through our Franklin Day Festival, we had flyers at the recreation tent advertising the upcoming Teen Talk. On October 3rd is when we actually brought the teens in, and it was 50 to 60 teens over at First Baptist Church, and they were there to talk about, see the first steps of this plan, see what the core values were, see what the mission of the overall project was, and they were there to talk about what they wanted as the people that were going to be utilizing the facility the most. Later in October, we did a stakeholder meeting, and that was really just to get input on the overall needs and designs. In November, individuals from Kimmel Bargret did some service provider calls to places like Middle Earth, Board of Education, the library, and other county programs. At the end of November, we did an ad in the Franklin Times newsletter, just so we had the youth center still on people's minds, so we can give them an opportunity to know where they could obtain more information. And then we knew that it would hit 31,000 households, so we were able to send that out, just so if it wasn't on a screen, if it wasn't in the buildings that they frequented, it was something in their hands. December, we went into our design phase, and then on January 12th, where Councilwoman Francois almost cried, we had the beautiful unveiling of the first community center design. So that has brought us here today. Just throughout the process, we've done school flyers, posters at municipal offices, press releases, information on our township website and through independent social media, youth and community group information sessions where we've done surveys or we've advertised to them in order to get involved, special event advertising, live surveys, community partnerships. I painted a 4x4 sign with a friend of mine to go out on Hamilton Street, and we've gone through RPM management. So when I say that this process was really meant to bring the community into the fold as far as making the decisions that went into this beautiful design, I truly mean it, and I'm just so proud of the work you guys did. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, Safi. Thank you very much. So now I just want to say thank you to the council. Without the vision and support of this council, this project would not be to the point where it is. There's a lot of leadership here. There's a lot of commitment here. And I'm just so grateful to be a part of this team and to be a part of this governing body. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. I don't know if you want the council to give their comments on this project. Would you like to have some council discussion on this?
This part of the meeting is your meeting.
Okay, so I guess I'll ask if there's anyone from the council that wants to make a comment about what they saw here tonight. Councilman Wright.
Councilwoman, could I just preface their comments with one thing before, and I welcome, obviously, all of the comments from council, but I just wanted to, one of the things that was asked of me this afternoon, this afternoon, and I talked to Safi and I talked to the councilwoman, is where we're going to go from here. So one of the things I just want to say is this. So the very first thing that will happen, and it actually lines up very well with over the next 3 weeks, is there are 3 very relevant committees of council for this particular project. Administration for the programmatic issues of this facility once it's constructed, if we move forward with it, which I certainly hope we will. The Financial Oversight Committee for the funding of this, and the Land Use Committee as it goes towards the site and the construction. So if you look at your calendars, you'll see that we have all 3 of those meetings coming up over the next 3 weeks. So my intention is to bring this presentation to all of you on those individual committees so that, you can absorb it tonight, you'll have it, I'll send it to you tomorrow, you'll have this presentation and what's proposed as a concept, and then as we meet on in those individual committees, I can take it, and if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, remember this is a concept. So when we go, what your adjustments would be now, in my mind, would be the specifications when we go out and for the next phase of this type of project. So it's not that we're going to go to Kimmel Bargret and ask them to change their concept. This is their concept, and this is what we've worked very hard for. But what we can do is we can take the input from on all of the different different types of issues on a huge project like that and incorporate them into any specifications that we would create to move forward. So that's it. That's all I had to say. I want to know that, let you know that that's what your manager's plan is for this moving forward.
So given that, are there still council comments that you'd like to
Yes.
make? Okay, Councilman Wright.
Just a couple comments, and I'm sorry that I came in late. As a film director, I have to work late sometimes. So let me just dive right into it. I know someone mentioned about the parking in the area, but having walked down Lewis Street, I just wanted to make sure that if we're talking, if we were maxed out on that building one night, where are we parking? It's not, unless we have a parking deck somewhere, it's a whole lot of cars. Don't have to answer that tonight, but that's something that has to be looked at because.
And like I said, so we're certainly looking at different options. I don't know that tonight's the night to discuss that.
Oh, no, that's why I said.
And you luckily are on land use, and that would be the appropriate committee to discuss that.
So we're going to pass that one by. My also is the biggest concern, and this happened about 2 weeks ago from a gentleman that lives on Lewis Street, but he lives 2 blocks away from the proposed rec center. And Councilwoman Sherman brought up the issue, and it made sense now that I'm going back over it. My buffer, I mean, we're landlocked, so there's not a lot of room moving around there. And unlike Middlebush Park, where I had the room to put anything I want as buffer space, however, the noise generated, you know, all that kind of good stuff, we're landlocked. Now, when it goes out to various committees, have you, whatever, what is the projected noise sound level? And I know you can't answer that now, and it would definitely have to go down to Bob's end. And I know Bob will say, hey, we got to look at that. But if we're going to build something, and it's how many feet from the property line?
Whatever the setbacks are for that zone.
Okay.
25 feet? 25 feet.
25 feet from the
25
property
off
line.
the property lines.
How does that work for the noise to the neighbors if you're talking 25 feet? And Councilwoman Sherman, at the time we were doing Middlebush Park, it was a big gap. And that's one of the problems. I love the community center, and that's a beautiful thought, but I'm just worrying about the noise level that the neighbors will hear without question. So that's some of the concerns that I have moving forward. And I think that as we go through the various committees, everybody gets his turn, you know, to tweak it and do whatever. But I want to publicly state that those were 2 conditions that I have and was asked about that noise.
The only thing I'd say is I think you're talking apples and oranges. Councilman, Middlebush Park is outside, and this is a building where they'll be inside. So
yeah, I understand.
You know,
I understand inside.
So we'll talk about all of those things.
No, excuse me. 1 second, please. I understand inside versus outside. I didn't miss the boat on that one. I'm sorry. I understand that. But you're talking 25 feet. And I know 25 feet is not a hell of a lot of feet. I wear size 15. And that's not a whole lot of feet there, I'm trying to tell you. So if we're talking a bunch of kids making a bunch of noise, and we're not talking soundproof walls or anything, I just want to know, what are we looking at as far as noise levels are concerned? That's what I have my concern with, and that's what the neighbors have. Now, if the neighbors have a concern and I don't address it, why did they elect me in the first place?
I can address the sound. With a commercial building of that type, there would be virtually no circumstance that the interior noise would get out of the building, period. I could imagine, okay, to just truth in advertising, that if there was a dance
on the rare occasion, and the music was really loud, you might be able to hear that a little bit of thump. But the day-to-day activity for athletics, the game rooms and so on, zero noise would get out of the building. Obviously, there's a couple of playground components outside that would have the normal, if people are dribbling a ball, you know, it would be that kind of thing, but not at all a nuisance because the building will be so tight in the way it has to be designed. This isn't even doing anything special. The insulation, the glazing that make a code-compliant building now, zero noise except possibly under a high-level music event, which I'm sure you could control.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that part. So I just wanted to make sure that we were on record. Oh, no, I'm not worried about language. Just want to make sure that we were on record for what our concerns were. And that was one of them that came up along with parking, and we're good.
Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else on the council like to comment? Councilman Chase?
I did see a community garden there.
Yes.
Good. Well, I hope Mr. Tibbs can help us organize that. He has some experience. I think the main thing with a community garden is to find somebody who will supervise it. And I think there'll probably be plenty of use of it, judging from the community gardens that we have, neither of which are all that close to this one. So that I think that's an excellent idea. And I know a master gardener who has repeatedly volunteered to help with the horticulture side of a community garden. So I think we can get that going.
Thank you, Councilman. Deputy Mayor?
I just want to say
Robinson.
kudos. Great job. This great concept. Love it, love it, love it. With lighting and safety and security, that would be a concern for me. So other than that.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Mayor?
Yeah, very, very amazing. And just when it comes to financial oversight, I'd also be interested in the operating costs.
Councilman Prasad?
Yeah, no, this is amazing, and it's the answer to a prayer I made when I first got on council. We lost 2 young people, and I said, we have to do something, and none of our kids are expendable, and this is the answer. And thank you for the design, and hopefully we'll never have those kind of tragedies ever again. So thank you for everybody who worked on it, and we made it possible. So thank you.
You, Councilman. Councilman Bassanella?
Yeah, it's fantastic. A long time in the waiting. I remember when Councilman Prasad was having that discussion. So I know you weren't kidding. I remember when that happened, and we talked about a lot of things. I think you and I were the only ones up here now that were up there then. But anyway, between Middle Bush Park and this initiative and plenty of others that are either done or in process, I think we're doing quite a bit as a town. But get back to this real quickly. Parking, I'm concerned because I think this will be such an astronomical success. We should be dealing with all aspects as conservative as possible with parking prior to it becoming an issue. And I say these things because I support this moving forward, but to deal with these things now earlier as opposed to later. The other thing that I was hoping, and I'm not trying to change your plan or concept, but I see a lot of drop-off and pickup about this, and I think what you need and want, or we might want and can use, is some kind of covered area, whether it's sun, heat, snow, rain, everything else, that people can easily put a lot of money and thought into easy access coming in, dropping off, easy access to picking up, because I see that as monumental with the flow of moving people in and out for safety, for the residents on the street, with backed up with traffic, everything else. So not trying to get into the technical parts or poo-poo the fantastic energy that this thing is generating in all of us, but I didn't see much about that, and I'm concerned about that. The other thing is, I know we can't be all things to all people, but I hope, I didn't see anything mentioned there, that there will be some component that is specifically there to afford opportunities and space and activities for whether it's developmentally or physically disabled or challenged individuals, especially youth, which, in my opinion, there are not enough resources in the town or county. We do what we can, but I'd like to see a focus of that, and I know that's more of an administrative issue, but I really think helping those people in that position should be a very high priority. The building footprint, not to get technical, but I'm just trying to understand what the actual square footage of building footprint is, because there seem to be concerned that it was bigger than it is. Maybe an easier map can come in the future. You don't have to get into all that now. And I don't know where the $400 to $450 bricks and mortar costs came. It seems a little high. I'm not an expert, but I've been following big projects in this town for over a decade now. So my concern is the less we spend and the more we can save, perhaps in the building process. And I don't mean to cut anything out of it that's important, but obviously the more could go into the administration, the programs, et cetera, because ultimately, you know, we love this, but we have to be conscious of the cost. So spoke my piece. I look forward to this moving forward, and most of the things I am talking about kind of come back to Land Use Committee, which I'm on, so I think we'll all get and delve into the details relevant to our committee involvement and expertise.
Wonderful.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilwoman Francois, for helping make this move forward. We're all involved and supportive, but it always takes one or two council people to kind of take the lead.
This is a team effort.
Right, and I
Clearly a
know,
team
and I don't want to be, this won't happen with just you,
Not
but
just me.
it always takes one or two people to kind of be the lead and the pest in a
Thank
good
you.
way to get things going. So,
Okay,
thank you.
Councilman
Yes.
Onyedika?
Yeah, in fact, I'm just amazed looking at the building. I remember one of the admin meetings that you were talking about this idea. I never expected it to come up in a large, magnificent building of this nature, which I know the kids will actually utilize the privilege. In modern technology of today, I know computers will be there for them.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to see them utilize this opportunity. And at the same time, I'm saying thank you very much for coming up with such a complex building for the kids.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Councilman Will Galatieri?
I
Did I say
just
it
want to say this is exciting. This is an awesome and amazing design, and I hope we really can hold to it as close as possible. And to echo off of almost last night, I'm excited for the amount of light that we'll be letting in, because that sort of helps drive learning process and everything. So it's really nice to see how we're using the space and everything, and that the exposure. So really exciting, and can't wait to see this continue on in the coming months.
Thank you, Councilman. So, as you can see, this was the first time that this governing body saw this concept. So they're just as odd and overwhelmed as I was. So I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank everybody in the community for your support. There's more to come, and I'm sure at some point we'll be coming back to you, bringing you into the fold as far as we continue forward and continue to make more progress on this project. So is that, I think.
Conclusion is that everything I heard that was a question or a comment, for future development, there will be ample time to dig into the details and refine all of that and address everything that has been raised. So thank you for those comments.
Thank you, Kimmel Burgett. You guys did a phenomenal job. Really appreciate your work. Beautiful work. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Francois. Well done in more than one way. So my mistake, I was going from my notes on, which was on an old agenda, to back and forth to the new agenda, and the warrants were actually now, and the number I used was slightly off, so we have to do that vote again. Warrants in the amount of $12,936,584.31 on February 13th are presented to the Township Council for payment. Motion
So moved.
So moved.
and seconded.
Second.
Madam Clerk.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Passad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
We are now on to the public hearing and adoption of ordinances on second reading. Ordinances on second reading have been presented before, and now they will be voted on, yes or no by the council, and there is a public session for the public to comment on them. This is ordinance 4221-18, an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 236, Municipal Services, Schedule A, Canal Walk Phase X, 10.
Phase X.
Okay.
It's been a long day.
All right. The public hearing has been noticed as required. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Oh, wait,
Second.
I'm sorry, no. Do you have a motion for public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no discussion on public hearing, all in favor of opening for public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We are open to the public.
Mayor, seeing no one coming forward to speak on the ordinance, a motion to close the public portion of the hearing on this ordinance.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded, all wishing to, all
In
who
favor.
wish to close public session, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Now, do I have a motion on the item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the item? So this is for us to take over plowing and lighting on a new portion of Canal Walk. Any further discussion? Madam Deputy Clerk. Call the roll, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Passad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
We are now on to the consent agenda. Resolution items A through Z, as listed on the consent agenda, are presented to the Township Council for adoption. Do we have a motion?
Moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion, anyone wishing to pull any item from the consent agenda or
Yes,
highlight
please.
any item?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Wright.
I don't want to pull them from the agenda. I would just like our township manager, for the benefit of benefit of our constituents, the benefit of the people that live here in Franklin Township, if he would please explain number E, number M as it relates to a non-fair and open, and letter O as to what exactly that means as a authorized stipulation of tax appeal settlement.
Challenge accepted.
I'm sorry?
The challenge accepted. Letter E is a shared service agreement, and I scan over with the Health Department. Obviously, we're required by law to provide health services, Health Department services in the township, and we have contracted with Somerset County for a number of years now to provide that service, since we had done away with our own health department years ago because of cost factors. So that's what letter E is for.
Make a comment on it, or is this the time?
Well, I don't know that you're having a comment. I was asked to explain
So
those things.
why don't we let him finish explaining, and then you can make a comment.
Okay.
Okay, letter M is to award the purchase of non-fair and open software maintenance exempt as per NJSA 48:11-51 DD, Edmonds and Associates, and Everbridge. Edmonds and Associates is the finance software that we use and the water department billing software that we use. And Everbridge is our emergency notification system. We have those both in place and have had them in place for a number of years. And per state law, we're allowed to continue those contracts without competitive bid. That's what the non-fair and open means in the beginning of it. It would be far more expensive to start up an entirely new system than continue to use the system that we use. And O is extending the contract for trash removal. We have garbage and we have to get it taken away, and so therefore we have to contract with a company to do that. That's what O is, and we're
No.
extending the contract.
1861.
It's
All right,
annual.
well, no, I don't think, I don't know what letters you have. I have the electronic version.
If I can, there is, it looks to me like on the and I was just, I was doing the same thing you were doing. I had both up and it looks to me like, A, on your agenda is Resolution 18-47, which is not on the electronic one.
And that would be the reason
it is
why
thus
they're all
putting-
off.
It is thus putting everyone off because.
By one letter.
Correct.
So I'm working off the computer, Councilman, not the paper, because I actually look at the agenda with the attachments. So tell me what one you want to know about.
1861, authorized stipulation of tax appeal settlement, Adams Rental Division LLC.
It's not on the
No, that's,
electronic agenda.
So one at a time.
So
Ms.
it,
Councilman Wright, go ahead.
it's the authorized tax stipulation, an appeal for Adams Rental Division LLC, 50 Veronica Avenue, 48 Veronica Avenue, and 40 Veronica Avenue.
Okay, so that is when someone files an appeal, and then we have a tax attorney and an assessor who negotiate a settlement on that appeal on their property tax valuation, on their assessment of their property. And in this particular case, there was a settlement that was agreed upon and approved by all of the parties involved, and now the council votes on it. I can look up the exact numbers. It's an attachment to your. Okay, that's what that means. That's what a tax appeal settlement is. Stipulation to one.
Actually, that one is not currently on the electronic agenda.
It's not, and that's what I'm saying. There's obviously an issue right now
So
with
hang
the
on.
agenda that was published.
Hang on. So that's the next item I'd like to cover. If our attorney can cover, we seem to have a difference between the paper and the, what's on the computer, and so we need to know what we are voting for and what we are not voting for. If we vote yes, what's happening?
So it looks to me like, once again, so I'm just taking a look at this. Item 18-47 is listed as Z on the electronic one and is listed as A on the
Right.
paper one.
They're all there, it's just.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, however, is 1861, which is listed
That's now X.
on
apparently.
O on your agenda. The paper one is listed as X on the.
Actually, Y on the electronic. Y.
No.
1861.
No, it's listed as, oh boy.
I downloaded this agenda just before we walked into this room. So, and when you downloaded it, and there's obviously something happening with the
there's-
lettering of the numbered resolutions.
So here's the other thing, is that there are two different versions of the electric agenda.
And
If
that's
you go to the page.
One at a time, please.
If you go to just the page for the agenda, that's what I'm reading from. You're now talking about the downloaded one,
Yes.
which is the PDF, and you're right, and that is different than the electronic one.
They're different, but every single item is on every
That's
single
what
agenda.
and
It
that's what-
just has a different letter. It still has the same resolution number, so they're just in a different order on a piece of paper or on a computer screen.
Yes, and
they're all there.
And I think that's what I'm trying to
And
get
they
to,
are all
because
there.
it's A through Z, They're just in
And
different.
they're all A through Z. It's just sometimes Resolution 1861 is A, and sometimes it's Y, and sometimes it's X. But no,
Correct.
somehow or another, they're all there.
Yeah,
So-
can I'm sorry, Mayor, can I just make one other suggestion? So if you have questions, Councilman, can you tell us by, not the
Resolution
letter,
number.
by the resolution number, because then we'd be able to follow it.
Yep. So I got that one resolution number. What was the other one,
So
Councilman?
hang on 1 minute. So you've made the statement, they're all there. Have you done that by quickly scanning or by actually checking one by one?
I checked one by one. There's 26 of them. All the numbers are there, and because most of them are in order, just there's a couple that are out of order, and if you move them around, they're all in order by resolution number.
All right, thank you. Now, go ahead, Councilman. Or-
So the other ones I answered because those actually aligned with the proper numbers. It was just that one that was not correct. Oh.
We
Right.
good.
Okay.
We good.
All right. Are there any other questions?
Can I make the comment?
Yes, absolutely. That would be one of the other questions.
Yeah, on E, the shared services agreement, 18-51.
The Health Department.
Right. Just wanted to comment that there are two things that are happening that we need to bring up with them before we renew, and that is that, A, new restaurants going in, the health inspectors are holding up approvals for a long, long time, and it just need to be a better job.
Councilman, I manage this contract, and while I can certainly respect what that statement is, I don't know that everything that you're being told is true. I deal with this contract on a daily basis, and I have asked, let me rephrase that. My intent is to have the director of the health department at the next administration meeting. However, we have health department services, and we have a contract, and we really have, this is just a continuation of the contract from 2017. It's a renewal, and we have to pay the bill, and we have to have a health department.
I understand.
And I understand where you're coming from. There are other issues too. And we'll have an opportunity to talk to Dr. Masaba about that. But as far as the restaurants getting timely health inspections, they're getting timely health inspections.
No, these are new restaurants opening up.
And that has
There's
nothing
new
to
businesses coming in.
and that has more to do with construction and the permitting process as a whole than it does to do with the health department individually.
Well, no, the health department also has to do permitting.
I said as a whole, Mr. Mayor, the whole process. That includes the construction department. They work together, and that's one of the things that we've discussed that needs to be discussed with Mr. Masaba. But I've also already had those conversations, and we had them here when he made his presentation to council, and it will require additional staff, which will require additional people, and that's one of the things that we can discuss when we have him in admin.
Okay. The other thing is the lead time required for doing inspections of parties where the health inspector comes and checks the temperature of the food and requires 10 working days because most parties are on the weekend. We're addressing the whole legislative issue with that. And but at the same time, I think it should be 5 working days instead of 10 working days, and that will make it easier for our local restaurants to be competitive in bidding for catering jobs.
Councilman, we can discuss it in admin. I have a number of different opinions on that. You and I have had lengthy discussions about that, and I don't know that we're going to be on the same page, but we can talk about it again.
And I've brought it up with our state legislature as well, so, I mean, representatives, and it's something that needs to change.
This is our own ordinance.
No, he means the requirement of the inspection. He's
Yeah, the
talking about
10-day
two
lead
different
time
things.
is too long, working days. And number 2 is the reinspection of already inspected restaurants that are familiar with and are constantly putting out buffet trays in their own restaurants, and to have them to come out and reinspect those places is redundancy and overkill. And if it's state law, we need to change that. And if it's our own ordinance, then we need to address
The
that.
laws
So,
requiring the inspection of food is a state law.
Mr. Manager, so the councilman has raised his objection. You have correctly said it should be discussed in admin. That's where it will happen further. And we can, if we vote yes on this, it's a 3-year contract, but with 1-year renewals. And there's no reason why we can't negotiate other issues in between. So we have a way of going forward on this, both at the state level and at the local level. Any other issues? Madam Deputy Clerk, please call the roll.
Have we moved the
Yes.
consent agenda? Yeah.
We did.
We've had so much comment.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Galtieri?
Yes.
Mayor Kramer?
Yes.
Councilman Onijaka?
Yes.
Councilman Passad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Councilmember Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
We have no resolutions to be voted on separately. Old business, does anyone have any nominations? Mr. Wright, did you want to say something about Public Works staffing, the Public Works Committee?
You mean the change?
Well, you had
Yeah,
discussed
yeah,
with
yeah.
me a change
Right.
of council on Public Works.
And I'm glad you brought that up. Totally slipped me. The councilman of the second ward and I would like to swap out committees.
Well, so all,
So all we're going to do is just change.
so what you could do is you could offer to resign, and then council would vote on.
I offer to resign from the Public Works Committee.
Right, and do you have a nomination for someone to replace you?
Well, second ward councilman.
I second that nomination.
Okay, do we have any other nomination? So we have a resignation from Councilman Wright for the Public Works Committee, and we have a nomination for Mr. Galatieri. Do we have any other nominations?
I make the motion that nominations be closed.
Second.
Okay. Nominations are closed. All in favor of Mr. Galatieri on Public Works, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Was there another?
You want public safety? You want it?
Saying yes.
You gonna
So-
resign?
Yep, so I have to resign from public safety, so I resign from public safety.
And do we have a nomination for someone for public safety?
I nominate Mr. Wright. for
I'd
public-
second that nomination.
Are there any other nominations for public safety?
I move that the nominations be closed.
Second.
I hear no other nominations. Nominations are closed. All in favor of Mr. Wright for public safety, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried, and so it shall be. Are there any other nominations for anything else?
No, but I have a comment.
A comment from the deputy mayor.
Yes, I just want to say thank you for the yellow rose. The yellow roses were given to all the ladies in the room by our mayor. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That was
and
such
happy
a nice
Valentine's
thing.
Day.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You are,
The lady out there is just smiling away.
you are. You are welcome, and maybe people will forget that I called it number X. I hear no other nominations. There is no executive session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned. Be very well, Franklin.